All right, chapter content mastery, 16. It's a final one, and it's kind of a big one, so let's get started. Integrated marketing communications. The way I understand this is it is all of the different promotional activities combined into one kind of concept in which all of the promotional strategies, objectives, all of that is going to be unified into one kind of concept. So how does it relate to the development of your optimal promotional mix? Well, it's kind of directly connected with that because it is effective integrated marketing communications is going to be effectively using each of your different promotional mixes. So let's get out of the way that what's in the promotional mix. You got your personal selling, communication between you and your consumer. You got public relations, your image of your company. You got sales promotion. You've got a direct mailing, you've got sponsorships, you've got media advertising. All six of those kind of went into a little more detail into those in the class. All six of those aspects are going to be put together in integrated marketing communications. All six of those aspects are going to come out into one kind of unified strategy so that people are hit with kind of the same thing from all different areas. So the next one, this is a loaded one. Discuss the three basic objectives of advertising. Let's start with that one. So the three basic objectives of advertising are going to be informative advertising, persuasive advertising, and reminder advertising. So informative advertising, this is going to be just getting your information out there. We kind of talked about this is where you're going to start with your advertising, is you want to get people informed about what your product is. Persuasive advertising, we see this all the time. What psychological tricks, communicating some value, some service. I mean, this is one of the biggest ones, persuading you to get a product. This is one of the important parts. And then we have reminder advertising. This kind of advertising, this is like you get like a little push reminder. Hey, don't forget to check up on this product. Don't forget to, update this thing. This reminder advertising, the goal of this advertising is pretty simple. It's just, hey, don't forget we're here. Here's a little reminder. So the two general categories of advertising, you're going to have product advertising and you're going to have institutional advertising. So product advertising, this is going to be advertising your service or your good. It's just going to be advertising everything that makes up the product. So an example might be selling, like an infomercial selling a vacuum. They're just selling the vacuum. They're just selling the features of the vacuum. Nothing kind of personal. Institutional advertising, this one's a little bit more complex. This is kind of like, like philosophies, ideas. This kind of advertising is going to be, a good example of this advertising would be you're trying to advertise, you're trying to advertise, a better cause. You're trying to advertise giving to a foreign country, helping out, sending food to them. So you might see like a bunch of, foreigners, African children that are starving, or they're smiling when they get this food. I mean, this is kind of like a philosophy, an idea that you're communicating across. course, these are just the categories. You're just categorizing. Things are gonna kind of fall in a spectrum between the two. So the four major strategies for advertising. These are pretty interesting. We have the comparative advertising. You know, you've got your number one seller that's going to be advertised up here. You know, it could be in a white box or whatever, with its price, and then you've got yours, and you're kind of comparing the two. The biggest one I see this is when you have AT&T companies and you have Verizon companies, and they're battling it out. You know, they're like, look at how many sales this is doing, or look at the service this has. The strategy is going to be, we're going to convince you that our product is better than this product by directly putting the two against each other and pitting them against each other. Celebrity testimonials, this one, it's simple, it's explanatory. You put a celebrity out on your advertisement, you have them say it's great. People are like, we love LeBron James. We're gonna buy it because we love LeBron James. I mean, people don't actually think that, or maybe they do, who knows. But people think that a product is better because a celebrity is saying it, and it works. Interactive advertising. This one's a little different. This one's going to be kind of a process in which you kind of communicate with the advertiser communicates with you, and it's a process. It's something from the consumers and something from the advertisers, and this is a strategy that might work because there's a little more involvement. And then retail advertising, this strategy is just simply going to be advertising, through using the stores themselves to be able to advertise. So, discussing some of the ways in which we can advertise. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to list some of them, kind of like the question says here. You've got television, advantages and disadvantages. Television, one of the biggest disadvantages is kind of what we talked about in that encoding and decoding process. People aren't going to be listening a lot of the time. People are going to be, getting out on their phones. They're going to walk up, get a drink. I mean, with television commercials, at this point, it's so hard for them to be effective for two reasons. I mean, one, people don't even see a lot of these commercials anymore because of streaming services like YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, all these things. A lot of them you can pay to get rid of the advertisements. You're just paying for the service. You're not paying for a service with advertisements. Basic cable TV is kind of going on the wayside. There's that, and then there's the fact that we have been programmed, because we see so many television advertisements, to when a television advertisement comes on, we're getting up, we're getting the chips. This is our break time. Like, this is where we turn off and leave. The advantages, obviously you got repetition. You're going to get out to tons and tons of people. So, I mean, there are advantages and there are ways to make them work, but you got to be careful with this one. Another big disadvantage I forgot to mention, you're going to have a very wide, different audience. I don't want to talk about newspapers too much. Kind of know they're outdated and they're only really useful for, an older community base, and even some of the what would it be, Generation X. A lot of Generation X doesn't even use it anymore. It's mainly kind of becoming a little bit above that. We're talking kind of like 50 and up. I want to talk about magazines, because I think magazines are really interesting in the fact that magazines are useful in that only certain people buy certain magazines. So like we talked on there, you want to sell guns, put an advertisement in a gun magazine. If people are already buying, if they're already subscribed to this magazine, they're paying money to see this stuff. So I think magazines are really, really good. One of the disadvantages might simply be, not as many people are, not as many people in the younger generation are subscribed to magazines. Gonna be more subscribed to like social media and stuff like that. Let's talk about one more. We'll talk about the interactive media, with your social media. The biggest advantage of this is young people. Young people are on social media all the time. The biggest advantage is just going to get to this audience. But a lot of times, this social media advertising, it can take a lot of work because you got to build up. You have to build up this image as somebody from media. So if you're not already on there, I mean, you have to go in and post videos and pictures and comments and interact, and it can be bad for your mental health because you're looking through the comment section and seeing all this judgment. And I mean, social media has got a lot of downsides, and the biggest advantage is if you're trying to sell to that younger audience, it might be the most effective channel to get to them. So we I think we talked a decent amount about that. So yeah, let's get into this last one. Product life cycle. How does this affect your message? How does this affect your reasonings behind your message? The product life cycle is going to affect that by every step of the product life cycle is going to kind of require different advertising, and we've talked about this. We talked about this before. The kind of marketing message that you're going to want to communicate with your people based on where it's at. If it's in an introduction phase, you're sorry. If it's in the introduction phase, you're going to want to inform people about your product. You're going to want to get people on board with your product. You're going to want to set good first impressions. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on the introduction phase of a product to really get it out there, get the message out there. What is this? If people don't know what your product is, then people aren't going to buy it. So, and then once you get into growth and maturity, your it says on the slide here, advertising and personal selling. I would say when you get into the growth and maturity, though, a little further more on that is if you have this, you already have this brand loyalty, you already have this this community of people. You don't have to focus quite as much on informing people about your product and informing about the services and persuading them. Now you can kind of use a little bit more of just kind of constantly, reminding them that you're here and creating kind of funny products. And like Geico, for example, Geico doesn't have to explain who they are anymore. They're just reminding people that they're there. I mean, everybody knows what Geico is. Everybody knows about their product, and they still explain, who they are in their commercials, but their commercials are completely directed on something else. And then maturity. So in its maturity phase and possibly declining phase, there's a couple things that this might affect as far as your strategy and your general objectives. You might decrease the amount of advertising you're going to use to this product because you're kind of just accepting that it's going to die, or you might do the opposite and increase it and try to resell the product, reinvent the product, extend the life cycle, try something new. The bottom line is as the product changes, as people's perception of the product changes, as the times change and, you know, the product in relation to the time it's in changes, all of those factors are going to affect how you market the product. They're all going to play an important role in the product because the product is serving different purposes, and when you're advertising for it, you got to advertise for those different purposes. All right, so that was a bit of a long one, but